Hey guys, today we're going to take a look at how to estimate square roots. So I want you to pause the video and draw this number line. Now that you've drawn the number line from 1 to 15, I want to show you what this even has to do with square roots. Now, if you'll remember last week when we talked about perfect squares and square roots, we said things like the square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. Well, we are just going to put these on a number line so we can use them to estimate non-perfect square roots. Okay, so watch what I'm going to do. Above the 1, I'm going to put square root of 1. 2 squared is 4, so the square root of 4 is 2. See that? So these numbers can represent square roots as well. 3 squared is 9, so the square root of 9 is 3. 4 squared is 16, and this is just a review, so the square root of 16 is 4. 5 squared is 25, so the square root of 25 is 5. So next would be square root of 36. 7 squared is 49. So the square root of 49 is 7. Next would be square root of 64. The square root of 81. 10 squared is 100, so the square root of 100. The square root of 121. The square root of 144. The square root of 169. Remember, 14 times 14 is 196. So the square root of 196 is 14, and the square root of 225 is 15. So that's just another way of writing what we learned last week. It's kind of like organizing our learning. Now let's talk about how we're going to use this. What if, and I'm going to choose a different color. I'm going to choose, let me do the light blue. What if I had this? And I said, estimate the square root of 40. Matter of fact, let me do it in purple, the same color as what I've written those square roots in. So let's estimate the square root of 40. So if I look at the top where I wrote the square root numbers, or the square roots, the square root of 40 is between the square root of 36 and the square root of 49. Somewhere in there. You see that? So if I were going to estimate the square root of 40, I would say that it is between 6 and 7, because that's where it would be on the number line. Let's try some more. Let's say, what is the square root of 84? So don't look at the bottom numbers yet. Let's look at the square roots at the top, the square roots of perfect squares. So square root of 84. If I look at the top, that's going to be somewhere between the square root of 81 and the square root of 100. So I would estimate the square root of 84 to be somewhere between, now let's look at the numbers at the bottom, 9 and 10. Because those are the values of, that's where the value is between those two whole numbers. Let's keep going. What if I wanted to find or estimate the square root of 5? So let's look at the perfect square roots up here. Where would the square root of 5 be on this number line? Well, I think it's going to be between the square root of 4 and the square root of 9, somewhere. So I estimate that value to be between, now let's look at the black numbers, 2 and 3. And if I used a calculator, we would find that the square root of 5 is like 2 point something. The square root of 84 is 9 point something. The calculator gives you an exact amount. We're just estimating. That's all we're doing. And these are called non-perfect squares, square roots of non-perfect squares. Let's do a few more until you get the hang of it. So let's find the square root of, or estimate the square root of 210. So I look at my square roots up top, and you're actually going to use this number line to help you with your practice. So if I look, it looks to me like the square root of 210 would be somewhere between square root of 196 and square root of 225. So I estimate that the square root of 210 is somewhere between 14 and 15. So I want to do one more. Where would you estimate the square root of, this is a good one, 152 to be? What do you estimate the value of the square root of 152 would be? Pause the video, see if you get it, and then unpause the video and see what you came up with. So I would say, looking at the top, the square root of 152 is somewhere between the square root of 144 and the square root of 169. So the value is going to be somewhere between 12 and 13.